Hey everybody, it's Jillian, straight out of beautiful Ohio on a nice cool day. Not blustery, just a bit cold. And it's October. Believe me, back when I first met my husband, it was in the 20s and 30s and there's already snow on the ground. So it's kind of weird being in October and it's been relatively warm. Okay? So anyways, this whole thing with matter and antimatter, and then the whole thing with CERN and studying antimatter and trying to create matter out of energy, because that's kind of like, this thing with creating the universe, and what people are having issues with when it comes to CERN is the fact that it is trying to create chaotic energy, that there is no real purpose to it. Okay? So let me read this real quick of what I wrote up here, because it's really interesting. Because CERN is interesting. That's why they call it CERN satanic, because they study antimatter, which is death. Because it's a duality of like matter is life, and then antimatter is death. Studying antimatter, which is basically death, and then trying to collide both matter and antimatter together, which is a very major explosive type of situation. So matter only came into being as rapid cooling occurred in the lab. Creating matter entails a reaction called pair production. Well, no different than sperm and egg or something happen asexually. Um, so called because it converts a photon into a pair of particles. Okay, so a photon is a tremendous source of energy, and then a pair of particles, one matter, one antimatter. The reverse of the matter antimatter annihilation we just mentioned. So it's like an annihilation, but it still creates matter. It's like positive and negative come together and make something. To create matter in life, it takes tremendous source of energy at the micro level and the macro level. Pain, this is my take on it. Pain is little explosions in your body creating life, matter being produced, which is basically protein synthesis and cell regeneration. So that's why you can't get upset at the pain, because those are little explosions in your body, which is basically life being generated. Okay? If you look at it from the macro level, you understand what goes on at the micro level. Everything is connected. To create space and time at the macro level, it takes tremendous amount of energy as well as the micro level. Photons of energy and particles create matter, and salt water in your microbiome create that which is you. When things are exploded with no clear purpose, it is mass chaos and death. And this is why CERN is such a problem for many people, because they are creating matter with no clear purpose, of which is tremendous amount of energy. And also they're dealing with antimatter. Okay? And so there is order to your microbiome, to your body. So that's why Jeju should never be something you're afraid of, because you already have a design that's already been officiated by the architects of the universe. Okay? Your DNA is all different codes of what it's supposed to do. You have DNA codes for your fingers and your nails and your little crook in your thumb, and you have DNA codes for your wrist and for your forearm and for your elbow. All of them are coded to have a specific purpose. It bends. It has movements and mechanisms that, that there's an intention behind it. So then there's the junk DNA, which is the untapped potential, of which I talked about yesterday, of which now I'm attempting with Jilly Juice to try to make a connection that Jilly Juice could potentially activate some of the junk DNA, and also it'd be based upon also your surroundings. So we don't know exactly why the junk DNA has not been activated, but there's two possibilities and two potentials. It's because you haven't been able to activate it because you're only living to be about maybe 100 years, if that, as well as the environment is not that extreme yet or hasn't changed to that level. But right now, man is not allowing you to see how your body can adapt to a changing environment, because they keep messing with your genome. And then you keep taking suppressing out, protocols that don't allow your evolution to flourish. Okay? So, matter and antimatter is like junk DNA. Matter is like junk DNA. It's just not really Well, yeah. Well, antimatter is death and chaos. So that could be like, no, because it's not death. So yeah, matter is just, you can have forms of matter that are chaotic matter that's just kind of floating around, or there's matter. But this wouldn't be called matter, this would be called book. This would be an organized matter. Just like your body is an organized matter, okay? And then you have matter out in space and matter in inner space, junk DNA, things that are uncoded, they don't have a clear purpose. And that's really what I'm trying to get across is that there must be a clear purpose when you are trying to regenerate life, because if you're trying to generate life with no clear purpose, then there's no order and there's chaos and then destruction, because you know well, yeah, because it's energy, it's uncontrolled energy. And so yeah, when somebody isn't taking their pills for their bipolar issues and they don't have an order, really like a really comfortable alignment with their body, mind, and spirit, then they're kind of in an organized chaos of which they have an uncontrolled energy that they cannot seem to harness. And so that's why biotech and psychiatrists try to harness the uncontrolled energy in people who are imbalanced. Okay, so everything is connected, and you have to see all the connections. I mean, if you don't, then you'll never be able to understand my protocol, because you'll be so compartmentalized, so afraid of the salt, so afraid of the pain, don't want to feel, your healing process, because you're still trying to fit in with your current construct, which is the death world out there. People are dying and reproducing. They're on the hamster wheel trying to produce for their bosses. They're not really doing JJuice, really. They're kind of doing it, but not really. They have so many predispositions, and they're very distracted. So it's like it's not going to be important to you, so you're not going to put it as a priority. Yes, your kids are a priority, but you know, if you're not going to exemplify amazing balance as a parent, then what are you teaching to your child? They will just reinvent the same loop and pass away prematurely, which I know that's not your intention. And so you have to really take care of yourself first and foremost. Okay? This Jilly Juice is not about self sacrifice. Self sacrifice is another programming, it's another self destruct process that somebody has put out there saying, yeah, you must take care of everybody else but yourself. No different than the individualism versus collectivism. Because I had to think last night when I was thinking about what I was writing yesterday, trying to articulate something that I knew in my head, but I just couldn't articulate it. I just didn't have all the words. And then finally, it just came to me like around 9 o'clock at night when my husband was like watching TV and he was being a boob, and so I was just like, and so I wrote this last night, and this will go in my book. But let me read this, because it for me it makes sense, because I see it out there all the time. Self-proclaimed individualists, compartmentalized people have a fear the collective's needs will be prioritized over their own. So the Republicans are so afraid of the Democrats, thinking that they're going to take their money and lead them into squalor and destitute. So self-proclaimed collective compartmentalized people have a fear the individualists will prioritize their needs first over their community, which means that those that are really rich will keep their money with themselves and will not share the wealth. Okay, well, what is wealth? It's unearned money, right? Or it's earned money, but when someone wants to take it, it's unearned money when you feel a fear from someone who has a lot, right? Both have fear someone else will usurp their energy and freedom, when in fact they've usurped their own. So when you're rich, in our society where people are not as rich, you're always going to be fearful someone's going to take it. Okay, that's the whole fallacy and the destructiveness of being really rich with a lot of money, is that you always have to protect it, because that is your direct correlation to life, when life really is how you generate your own cells in your body to keep living. Does all that money that you have that's in a bank really do anything for you unless you put it to use to make your world better, right? But it doesn't do any good sitting in your bank account collecting interest. Fearing your neighbor is a divide and conquer brainwashing because of perceived and proven experiences that boundaries were crossed. Well, yeah, when you have a bunch of imbalanced people that think that taking your bucket with a sponge and soap in it is going to give them something more, and making and have you, I guess something less, and or you're able to afford to buy a new bucket. That's where you like, oh god, someone stole from me, so now I got to go and protect even more, which means that if I'm making money, I got to protect my crap from someone else who isn't, who's going to try to take my stuff. And so yeah, of course you're going to fear your neighbor, you're going to fear anyone that fears anyone that makes a lot of money, because um you know there is an imbalance and in your community that you've seen, or you've perceived it because people have done it somewhere. So when people are relatively balanced and self-sufficient, the individual and the collective are taken care of. See, if everybody was like balanced and productive and healthy, which is balanced, um, and fulfilled and satisfied and entertained just enough that they're not worried about what somebody else is doing, there's no crimes being committed, there's no major upset of homeostasis in any part of the country. There's just a nice peace and harmony, and people are, going to work relative to their strengths and relative to their talents, or they're doing something that they love, and they're able to make a little money, or be able to trade goods and services. You're gonna have to make money bartering, but I mean, it's hard to barter really, really technical gadgets because you need a factory. But I mean, but that's kind of essentially, if you live in an advanced society that is harmonious, is that people are balanced and they love their jobs, and they know how to counter the different elements in the factories, or in transportation, or in whatever industry they're in, and they love it, and they're able to feed their family and feed themselves, and go to a movie or watch a movie, and go travel to a different place with really no major issue. And so you're not worried about, and you're making enough money to do what you want to do. You don't need so much, you don't have so little, that you're just balanced, so no one's afraid of somebody taking somebody, or somebody not earning their part, or it's like, it's a nice harmonious society, and that's utopia. Right now we're not in utopia, because you have some people who are imbalanced that are taking stuff, or fear of someone taking stuff, or they've collected so much and they don't want to share because they don't know how to share it, because they don't know what to do with it. They have so much money, they just keep buying, handbags from Christian Dior, and then someone who doesn't have handbags from Christian Dior are like, all their eyes are all like, ooh, and figure out how to steal that, and what do you do with a freaking handbag from Christian Dior? What do you do with all these different material things that really don't have any meaning when it comes to longevity? It's just a material good that it's like a symbol of status. And do we really need to live on status symbols? But the rich do, because they can, right? So when people are imbalanced and super dependent, they blame the controlled opposition in a controlled duality of reality. And that is exactly what the Democrat, Republicans, and all the different offshoots is, that we have so many imbalanced people on both sides of the aisle, and they're so in fear of each other because of perceived fears of what they have done, and what they have, and what they're afraid they're going to do, that it's like they will blame for whatever situation, And then when you realize that, okay, so now you have like a $500,000 house, and now you're down to a $200,000 house. Yeah, your lifestyle has changed, but you can still be happy with $200,000 house versus a $500,000 house. I could be happy in a freaking hotel room, which I have been before, in a hotel room with my husband. This is way back in 2000, like 11, 12, 2010, 2011. We were in a hotel for like a few months before we roommated with somebody, and we were happy with, he just started his job. I was working for some agent, cold calling for him, and making maybe $200 a week, and he was making maybe like $300 or $400 a week. We were making crap. And so we were in this hotel, and we left this girl that was just didn't pay the rent. She took our rent, and she bought her boyfriend crap. So we were like, we can't live in this place. We're getting evicted because she ain't paying the rent. So we came back from Florida going to California, and she just took our money and spent it. And so we were getting evicted. I'm like, why are you motherfucking? I was just so pissed. So we ended up living in this little hotel in West Sacramento. Okay, West Sacramento, which is a pretty rough part of town. Okay, West Sac is pretty rough. And so we stayed there for probably maybe about a month. And and we were happy. That was probably one of our happiest times because, we had our $2,500 car, Mercedes. It was working, it was ran okay. And I had my car, my little Ford Focus. And we $10 to get us through the weekend for food. We get the dollar menu, and Little Caesars was like our privilege, because it's pizza versus a hamburger or a cheeseburger from McDonald's. And then finally we were able to kind of rise above, a little bit above that, because we were making some money, and then we finally can go get like sushi or something like that. But we were living in a hotel, but we were happy. We had our needs met. Yeah, it was a struggle, but we relied on each other. And so yeah, now now we have a house, right? And this is like 10 years later, and when we invested, and I invested, in my husband doing the trucking, and so it's like, yeah, what would I do with a $500,000 house with like 50 rooms? That's just too much. So there's got to be a balance of even just material wealth. I mean, I don't need so much. My husband likes to collect stuff because it came from the guy from the 80s, where everyone was buying stuff. And he has a lot of hobbies and whatever. And I'm just more like, I have a bunch of money, right? Let's just say I have a bunch of money, and what am I going to spend it on? So I don't really see a need to make a bunch of money, because what do you do with it? Okay, how many times you can go out to eat, eating really expensive food? How many, how much shopping can you really do? So when people are making so much money, they don't know what to do with it. So what do? They either give to a charity, and the charity goes and does whatever they do with it, or they go and buy useless shit and fill their house up with useless crap. Yeah, it's pretty, okay. Yeah, it's pretty. That's pretty, okay. But in the end, is it really satisfying? What's satisfying is, for me, in my opinion, in my world, is to improve the way in which I write, the way in which I speak, finding different things to understand that I never understood before. Because I keep challenging myself. Okay, when I think that I shouldn't, I can't understand this, like maybe 10 years ago, I couldn't understand CERN, I couldn't understand antimatter, matter, or whatever. I couldn't understand all these different things, right? And now, if I really wanted to go study it, I could go study it, but I wasn't going to college to do that. But now it's like challenging myself to read the internet and read things that I normally wouldn't put my mind to and try to figure it out. Now I can go and read stuff and be like, whoa, I have the mental clarity to put things together. That to me is far more satisfying than buying some object. That, if I can get through to somebody where they understand J Juice and they improve their life to such a level to where it's unrecognizable, that to me is satisfying than buying something stupid on the market. Now, if you create something, that's amazing, because you've taken something that is within you and you've created it, you've done it, that, and that's awesome. But, this material goods of buying and selling shit on a constant basis, okay? Or improving an organization. You take an organization that is flailing, haven't figured out, and you go figure out their business process, and you figure out where all the excess fat is, and you cut that out. Sorry, but some companies have excess fat, and that's why they're not run very well. And then you make it a well-oiled machine to where there is a predictable input and a predictable output, and it's consistent, and it's like right on the money, and people are happy, they have good work-life balance. I mean, there's so much out there that a person can do, especially when they have the J juice, when they finally heal on the J juice, and then they can see how strong all of their talents are. Even the things they didn't know they could do, they can actually do it. And so, yeah, you could do anything, once you actually heal on the J juice. There is nothing that can stop you. Sky's the limit. Besides, yeah, I don't think I want to be a fireman. Okay, I'm not going to be hauling a dead weight over my shoulder going down a ladder from a burning building. So there are things that I know my limitations. But when it comes to intellect, when it comes to even if I want to train for something, yeah, it'll take, probably a few months for me to get my body to train for something, which means that yes, you're going to be morphing your body into bigger muscles and using a lot more energy, which means you have to then go and bring in more energy producing foods. Do I want to do that? Nah, I don't really find any joy in running. I always hated running. I'm telling you, I was always doing a 14-minute mile, okay? Maybe if I was good one day, it would be an 8-minute mile. But that's if I really just kept up on it. But really, my average mile was about 14 minutes, maybe 13. And I don't care because I'm not. That was never my strength was to run. I was always a goalie in soccer. I was never really good at halfback because it's like up and down. Oh my God, never really wanted to do the forward because I was too afraid to be offensive. So I was always in fullback or defense like a goalie. And that was my, that was my position when it came to sports. So so I always find joy in the intellect, the intellectual process. Okay? And in challenging situations when intellect comes into play, that's where my strength is because that's what I was kind of bred to do as a child. I mean, I did play sports. My mom tried to get me into gymnastics, which I did okay, but I wasn't disciplined enough in body, mind, and spirit to stick with it. And so then, she tried to figure out, how well she took me to like a beauty class where you put makeup on and library. I mean, I'm not saying that my childhood was so horrible, but there's definitely certain things I'm like, oh my God, but I know she's trying to program me into something. Okay, she just couldn't figure out what the hell to program me into. So, this probably was not what she was anticipating as far as the Diligence protocol. But whatever. But yeah, but studying words and studying concepts and really just overcoming whatever it is I felt I was, was just deficient in, my teens and whatever is what I find joy in today. So yeah, the things that you hate when you're a child are going to be things you love now. And then you can see why people get into their professions or why they do what they do as an adult because it has come from their childhood too. Okay? So anyways, so yeah, so I'm hoping that down the road our society will be so well balanced because they're not dying and reproducing on such a level that we are today. Okay? And that people will be very happy and a match for their jobs. They won't feel like they need to make, a billion trillion dollars. That when they get a bunch of money, they're not going to go crazy and just, squander it. When you have a bunch of money, just save it. Save it and use that to live on to then make the world better. Okay? And that's, and that's really it. I mean, because what's the point of having, material stuff? Have things to make your animal's life easier. Like I just bought a ramp for my dog so she can get on the bed easy and she can get into the truck easier because, even though, yeah, she's a pit bull, but it's hard to get in some of these trucks. They have such a big wall with little, the little levers to make the seat go up and down. And there really isn't a lot of space in between the seat and then the dashboard. And so she's not a huge dog, but it's like she can hurt herself trying to get into my truck. And then, with my bed, it's not that, I mean, she can get on the bed, but, the blankets are like coming down and so she has to find a strategy to get on the bed. And I hate to see her struggle. I know she's a dog, but I want to make her life easy. With the black truck with my husband, I have to help have him pick her up and put her in the truck. And I'm like, why should I depend on my husband to get my dog in a truck if I want to get her nails done or something like that? So, find things to make, your life easier, but not to where it's just now it's collecting dust and you have a bunch of crap. Useless stuff that you're going to give away anyways in like 5 years because you don't look at it. Or you want to go and sell it because you bought it because it piqued your interest today, but then, you lose interest tomorrow. It's like, okay. So, anyways, that's just my advice. But anyways, I'm going to do my thing. But I just wanted to talk about matter, antimatter, and the Big Bang, which is, the Big Bang, right? CERN makes, what is that? What did I say on this? The Big Bang should have created equal amounts of matter and antimatter. So male and female. Male is the matter and the female is antimatter. That's why women are known to be yin versus yang, and men are yang, yin, dark, whatever, right? And men that are yang, the life, and prostaglandins are made from men. That's the life portion of the immune system. So you can see all these symbols. So at CERN, physicists make antimatter to study in experiments. The starting point is the antiproton decelerators, which slows down antiprotons so that physicists can investigate their properties. Okay, so, it can be dangerous dealing with antimatter, right? But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You just hope that they know enough not to destroy their own planet. And you just keep moving on. So, anyways, you guys just do the J juice. Don't be afraid of the healing process. You're going to deal with pain. That's just inevitable. You deal with pain now, today, but you're just trying to anesthetize yourself and bring up your hormones to feel happy. But what has happened is happiness is relative, it's fleeting, and it's a construct. And when people want to pluck their happiness too much, they become pleasure seekers and they cause imbalances. And then, yeah, they're going to have a bunch of kids that they don't want. All right. So try to, understand that balance happens at the micro level as well as the macro level. And really have a dream for yourself. Because really, when you prolong your life and you outlive your friends and family and you are so clear headed in body, mind, and spirit, anything is possible, and you can do whatever as long as you know what the limits, the physical limits that you have, which you will because you would be balanced. Balanced people do not overdo their physical limits. They listen to their body. All right? And they understand logic. All right, have a good day. Bye.